Welcome everyone. I'm delighted to be here today with Osbaldeston. We just went over the name, but yeah, all right, good. Who is the co-founder of Dapple. Welcome, Oz. Great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Sure. And so this is a bit of a deviation from what we normally do, which is speak to editors mostly and writers now and again. But Oz is the founder of a submissions management platform. And I thought it'd be really interesting to hear from Oz about why this platform is necessary, what their vision is, and some of the AI stuff that we got into on Lit Mag News. So why don't you start off and just tell us like what is the origin of this project, why you wanted to launch it?
Sure. Yeah. So, me and my co-founder Ali, we started Dapple about a year ago. We, I'm originally a musician, and I came across a problem that I would record demos, I would send them off into the ether, and I would never hear back. And for a while there, I thought it was maybe I was just a terrible musician. But then speaking to people in the music industry, the problem is ubiquitous there as well. They are inundated with submissions, lots of demos, and they literally just don't have time to listen to everything. Therefore, it's rare that you ever get anything back, or especially any feedback. The music industry's changed a lot since then. I then started casting around for, is this a problem across the creative industry as a whole? It became very quick and apparent that within the lit mag and journal world, this is a real big problem. And submissions are such a vital, critical part to making everything work. And then we did lots of research. We started speaking to editors, different publications, and gathering all the feedback that we could. And we found that there were, from the publisher, editorial point of view, there were still lots of problems. Submittable exist in this space, as I'm sure we're all aware, but they didn't come very well regarded from many in the industry. We saw that submission fees were an issue. There were lots of things that Submittable did, which lots of publications found annoying to say the least. It's a very inflexible system that, yeah, they charge astronomical fees. And we basically saw lots of a gap in the middle where we could come and champion the creator as creators ourselves and try and solve some of these problems. And so, yeah, a year later, we're about to launch, and yeah, we've got some beta testers on. We've been testing for the last few months, and yeah, that's sort of brought us to now.
Hmm. That's so interesting. So for many writers, I think we don't have a clear sense of like what goes on the back end. So all of this is very interesting and illuminating. Like, what were some gripes, if you don't mind sharing, that you heard about Submittable, and how would those kinds of problems with the software affect writers who are sending out their work?
Yeah, so submission fees is a big one. So I'm sure you're very well aware, as you've written about recently, that um, lots of publications are charging more and more for submission fees.
Mhm.
And one of the reasons for this is the cost of the software to take submissions in the first place. And with Submittable, they have a very high rate that they charge every publication for every submission that comes in. And off the back of that, you then see these costs spiraling in a way because they're then passed on to the writers themselves. So you end up paying what used to be $2 or $3 is now up to $10, $15, $20, and it seems to be getting worse and worse. And a lot of this is to cover the cost of actually paying for the system
Mhm.
itself. And that's where we think we can do a lot to help in on that side of things. So we basically we charge publications around 50% cheaper in fees within our system, and we hope that we're going to see more of that passed those cost savings that if they switch from Submittable to us passed on to the writers themselves, and we see those coming down. We're also seeing that there are lots of caps in the amount of free submissions that a publication can offer as well. So you'll often see that we've reached our limit of 300 submissions a month, no more. And again, that's because Submittable put caps on how many of those that you can that a publication can receive. And again, that's something that we want to get rid of. We want to extend that to allow for a much higher threshold of free submissions, if not an unlimited amount on some of our tiers. And again, we hope that that inspires more free submissions out there and more, again, just to help the whole creative space to, for writers at the end of the day. So that's kind of where we come from that side of things. There's also lots of technical things that might not be interesting to your to a writer, but things within the system that they are, they're gated in some ways. They submission forms, they can only have 5 fields on a submission form
Mhm.
before they have to then go on to the next tier. And Submittable do offer a plan for any CLMP members, which is greatly reduced from their regular plan. But if you have anything that you need to upgrade, it's then going to cost you as a publication hundreds, potentially thousands of dollars to upgrade. Again, we want to get rid of that and make it so that it's accessible to as many smaller publications in particular as possible, which the end result we hope the writers will see that end result.
Mhm.
So that's kind of our goal. Without getting into the technicalities of it, there are quite a few things which people find quite annoying in using Submittable. They really have monopolized the industry, and for many publications, they're a go-to platform without anyone really looking to see if there's anything else out there. And we hope to be that next platform out there.
That sounds great. I think many writers will be very appreciative of that. So how can I ask, like, how do you see making a profit? And I know Submittable, one of the problems with Submittable is that it became really big. Like I remember when it was first starting, it was just 2 guys. They were super nice. I talked to them at AWP. It was like a very kind of laid back, friendly. Like, it was like this.
Yeah.
And then they started expanding and they started offering their options to beyond lit mags to like I think even like college applications. And then they started having investors and shareholders. And I think and now it's just like this huge company. I don't even know who's behind it. So do you envision keeping Dapple more contained, or do you have like a different kind of investor structure that you'll be using, or how do you plan to manage the need to
Yeah.
please writers, but also the need on your end to make a profit?
Yeah, it's a great question. We come from the creative background, and we want to keep this contained within the creative industry. We know that it's the literary magazine and journal world is very small. We feel like we've built a product that really can help a lot of these publications out in terms of functionality and in terms of cost and everything like that, everything like that. And that's our primary focus, for the near future. We do want to expand out to more other creative industries. For example, we have been talking to art exhibitions or smaller creative commissions and applications in that sense, smaller sort of fellowships that are involved within the creative sphere. That's our our wheelhouse. That's where we want to kind of expand to everything creative because that's what we care about. That's what we're passionate about.
Mhm.
Submittable have gone into corporate social impact stuff that we're not
Mhm.
really interested in. That we are solely focused on how do we improve the creative industry that we're in, and how can we accommodate other tangential verticals that might be similar to literary magazines and journals, but slightly different. Like exhibitions is a really good example for that. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm. That sounds great. So has Dapple officially launched yet? Do you have any customers?
So we have a few customers. We have some beta testers as well that we've been working with for the past few months. We haven't quite launched yet. We're still getting a date to do a big launch, which we'll shout about when we have that. We're just kind of ironing out a few final sort of kinks and making everything as sort of as streamlined as possible for anyone who's signing up to our platform. But if you wanted to, you could sign up to our platform today and join our beta program. And we do have quite a few customers already using us.
Hmm.
Which again, just for that as well, having beta testers is amazing because we get that feedback straight from these publications. They tell us things that we'd never thought of before, and it helps us develop our product. I think we're nearly at the point where we're ready to release. We feel like we've listened to a lot of feedback, built in a lot of features that now accommodates for a lot of those requests we've had. And so we're just getting that date in the diary to sort of pull the trigger.
Yeah, that's actually a great segue because I noticed that you listen to a lot of the feedback coming from LitMag News readers. It seems like the site has changed a little bit since I last saw it, since I wrote about it. Do you want to talk? Well, let's jump in. We'll talk about the AI feature that you created, and then talk about what kind of changes you've implemented.
Yeah, so one of the features that we did have that we were beta testing with was the idea of using AI to validate submission guidelines.
Mhm.
So I know that you wrote a piece recently, which is probably the reason for this call, which did inspire a healthy dose of vitriol in the comments, and rightly so, because again, coming from a creative standpoint, if I was to write something, send it to a publication, they would then just feed it into an AI machine and tell me whether it's good or bad. I would absolutely, I mean, that's just not what we envisioned at all. And I would be, appropriately angry as a consequence of that. So what we wanted to do was to use AI to validate the guidelines that a publication might have. So we know that this is an issue talking to lots of magazines that lots of submissions that they receive deviate from those guidelines. The word count is wrong, the genre is wrong, and yet they're still submitting this material. Now, at the end of the day, this goes to a small team of writers who are, underfunded to begin with, have very little time, and then to then sift through the slush pile in itself is incredibly time consuming. So the idea behind this feature was to, validate the submission and flag whether it might have deviated from the guidelines, and then to, add a label on there that would then flag that to the publication. It wasn't to judge it or review it in any kind of way, and as we know, that's completely subjective. It was to more look at the factual elements of a submission and then to flag to an editor whether this might stray outside of those guidelines.
Mhm.
That was the idea in terms of saving them some of that admin time, because we know that AI is very powerful when it comes to admin tasks. It's not so good at, it's not designed to be to share its subjective thoughts. So we wanted to limit it in that sense. Um, but as a result of your article and the sort of the comments that inspired, it made us look at everything differently. I mean, we'd been talking to publishers for a long time, and they were very receptive to the idea, saving time. We potentially didn't think of how it might play from a writer standpoint.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, off the back of that, we have removed that from our system. We're not looking
Mhm.
at doing that in terms of validation anymore. It's also worth saying as well that a lot of people were worried that their work would be used to train the model, and again, that's not
Mhm.
something that we ever did. Everything was completely ephemeral, siloed in within an organization. It wasn't used to train the model at all. It was mainly to sort of almost fact check those the more factual elements of their submission. But yeah, as a result of that, we have removed it from our platform. So that's the whole point of beta testing. It's not
Mhm.
just to see whether something works, it's see how it kind of is, how an audience receives it. And I think from a writer standpoint, it's potentially it's not the right time for that right now. So yeah,
Mhm.
we've removed that, and we don't consider going back to that for the short or long term. So yeah.
That's interesting. So it won't be, just to clarify, it won't be used now to evaluate the guidelines.
No, so we've removed that completely now. We don't want, especially around the launch, we don't want any sort of negativity of
Mhm.
being the sort of AI guys. And we want to focus in on the rest of our platform, which we know has so much more advantages to something like Submittable. We don't really want that as a distraction.
Mhm.
It made up a very small part of our platform, and so we were like, I think it was the right decision to remove that.
Yeah. Is that such a problem that like so many writers are not following guidelines that it's adding to the editor's
It's a growing problem. So talking to, I mean, it's difficult to put a number on it on how many publications are affected by this, but it certainly takes up a certain amount of time from an editor standpoint. With people trying to game the system. The other
Mhm.
thing as well, which we were looking at as well, is the idea of AI detection as well. So we know that
Mhm.
is a big problem. Again, I think you wrote about this recently, that with technology and the way it is, it's becoming a lot easier to use these tools and to essentially, yeah, game the system, have something write something for you to try and pick up that payment at the end of the day, that $500 for being published, without doing any work. So we're seeing that as a growing problem as well. And we know that AI detection isn't foolproof, but we know that it might add to an editor's armory in ways that they can potentially protect against that.
Mhm. That's kind of funny if the AI is being used to detect AI.
It's AI is used for AI detection. That's how it
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what AI features will be integrated into Dapple?
Yeah, so the only one that we have left that we are going to use is just being able to create a submission form. So
Mm,
we think that that's less controversial in the sense that a an editor can come in to
mm,
our system and they can what used to take hours to create submission forms. You can either use a template that we've created for you, so we have literary magazine templates, or you can just write in the prompt box exactly what fields you want on your form. And then that will then be it then creates a form for you. So that's the only kind of AI that we have in our platform at the moment.
interesting. So what do you say to an editor or writer who is thinking like, I don't want to have anything to do with AI. Any submissions management platform that even uses AI is just, I don't want to touch it. Because there were some comments on that article to that effect that people just they don't want to support AI. They don't want to have anything to do with it.
Yeah, again, I mean that's a very what we're left with is a very, very small part of the
Mm,
system and can easily be not used. I think that's completely a fair comment to have. And again, that's one of the reasons why we've distanced ourselves from, any sort of any use of AI right now. I would caution to the fact that the world is changing, as we know.
mm,
AI is becoming ubiquitous in every part of our life. From a writer point of view, if you use Grammarly, you're using AI on and we know how many writers use that to check all number of things. And so it will become more commonplace and the world will change. And I think we will all have to adapt to this new reality that we're living in. But yeah, we as well, we want to be as transparent as possible.
mm,
That if we were talking about this when we had the guideline validation that to have it as a mandatory box on the form that if a publication is using this, then it displays on the form, and then a writer is aware that their work might be
mm,
that the guidelines might be validated.
mm,
Um, so we want to be as transparent as possible. Again, we'll take feedback, but I think creating a form using AI is kind of commonplace now in any kind of in lots of form creators and
mm.
whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't think that impinges on anyone's kind of creativity or uses any kind of their work in any kind of nefarious way. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So what do you think is the biggest challenge in getting editors off Submittable? Because we've talked about like Submittable is like the mafia, like it kind of like controls the whole lit mag scene, and it's so easy to use. I think that's why editors end up relying on it, even though it charges these outrageous fees. So what do you think is the biggest challenge for editors to make that transition? Oh, I just lost sound. I don't know, did others as well?
We can hear you still.
Oh, I can. Okay, there we go.
Still
Testing,
hear you.
testing. We can still hear
Okay.
you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a huge challenge. We know that. It's going to be an uphill battle. Convincing people to make that switch from something that they potentially have used for a long time will be difficult. We do know that. We want to. It's up to us to do from a marketing standpoint to show how much savings they could use. Sorry, how much savings they could make if they switch to us, whether it be fees, whether it be platform fees as well. We want to show that actually our platform is easier to use than theirs. We have tried to make it as simplistic as possible and as yeah as easy to use, and the UI is very fresh and new.
Mm,
We're also looking at partnerships as well with people in this industry
mm,
to help us in that sense. And yeah, the more of things like this we can do and get our name out there when we do launch, the better. We're quite confident that as soon as someone starts using our product, they will talk about it. The word
mm,
of mouth hopefully is strong. As we know, word of mouth in this community is strong, and we hope that our name will get out there
mm.
as being a viable alternative that is not only cheaper but is easier and a better product.
Yeah. I was surprised. I saw that there are about 8 different submissions platforms. I didn't even know there's like Moksha and Subfolio. Some of these I hadn't even heard of till I wrote the article. So what do you see as Dapple's like one distinguishing feature?
That's a really good point. It's a really good question. So we have a couple of things. We have a Kanban stages board, which again, for your writers, they might not be interested in this, but as a publication, all your submissions come into one place, and then you can use a visual board to move them through the different stages. So if you're running a contest, let's say, and they get through to the first round, you can move them visually in that board, and you can set automations and things like that to move them to different rounds based on feedback. We have a whole reviewing panel, whereby you can create panels of different reviewers and judges, and then send submissions to them to be reviewed along the way. And we also have a projects view where you can see all of your different opportunities in one place, see the analytics of each of those different opportunities that you might be running as a publication, see all those in one place. And again, it's not no one else is doing that. We thought we were a little bit different as well with the AI side of things, but again, we have scaled that back
Mm,
that like Submittable will have a team of people working on the AI functionality.
mhm,
We got there first, but we know that they will have a whole team of data engineers, etc., working on that. So, but yeah, in a nutshell, that's what we do, and the whole UI and experience for the editors, we've already had feedback that it's much better than Submittable. So hopefully, all these things packaged together might be something that makes us different.
Yeah, I think on the writers end, and I'd love to hear, I know there are writers here, so any feedback or any issues that you have, I think now's a great time. Just put them into the chat or questions you have about how this might work. One thing on the writers end that I think people get tripped up with Submittable are the different stages. So there's when you send in your work, there's received and then in progress and then either declined or accepted. And I think a lot of writers see the in progress and they get really excited because they think that it means their work is being considered, everybody's talking about it. But what it actually means is just that it's been assigned to somebody. Like it doesn't necessarily mean that people are reading the work, and it can say received. And that is also deceiving because they can actually have opened the document and started reading it. So I don't know if it's good. I don't know if writers would want more clues as to where their work is in the process, but that might be an interesting feature. I don't know if you've thought about that. Like,
We have thought about that. So we have different stages within our system as well that you can create. That's something that Submittable don't allow as well. They have set
mm,
stages for publications, which if you want more stages, you have to pay an arm and a leg for.
mm,
Ours, you can create as many as you want, and you can call them what you want. And we
mm,
also have a feature whereby we give the publication the ability to change what the writer sees. So if you move it from to the let's say it's in review, you might want to communicate that that's in review and you want that to display to your
mm,
writers so they can then customize that within their platform. However, they might want to call it something else, so they can
mm,
customize what you see on your end for every different stage.
mm.
So it's up to the publication to decide what they want to convey. They're not hard coded into any kind of like in review, or sorry, whatever it is for Submittable.
Mhm.
They're not hamstrung by that. They have the ability to customize each of those different stages and what you see on there.
That sounds great. Or maybe, I don't know, that could also be kind of like torture for writers to
Pot-
some degree you don't want to know.
Potentially, but we want to give that power to the publication to decide. It shouldn't be us as gatekeepers to decide what you see.
Right.
We think it should be
Right.
up, the power should be with them to decide what they want to show to you.
Hmm. This all sounds great. I mean, I don't know if I have that many questions. Usually I'm speaking with editors and there's a question about like how the magazine functions, but it seems like I already have like a clear sense of how this would benefit writers. And then the rest is like tech stuff that
Yeah.
that, I don't know if people need to know it, but are you finding like what are some challenges that you're finding, and like
Hang
how
on,
are you
we have a question from someone
Oh yeah.
that just popped up. I saw. Hang on.
Um, oh, okay. So let's get to this question and then I'll come back because I'm also
Okay.
curious about challenges and challenges. Yeah, but I'll get to that in a second. What about searching features? Um,
As in discovery, do we think that what do
yeah.
you mean by searching? So at the moment, that's a really good question. We don't have a discovery option within our platform. However, we are in talks for partnerships with discovery platforms to power for them to be the discovery side of things and for us to potentially power the submission side of things. So we're not going down the discovery route, but we will be partnering potentially with those that do,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, actually, this makes me think of something else, which is Submittable does two things, which I find really annoying, which is that one is on its discovery page, it allows magazines to continually update the deadline for
Yeah,
the
yeah,
submission. So they're constantly at the top, and then they charge high submission fees, like $6. So they're basically gaming the system, and
yeah.
then unwitting writers send out their work. But if you don't have that feature, maybe that's.
No, we're very well aware of that feature.
Mhm.
A lot of people do that to try and game it. And yes, that will not be something that we will deal with because it's going to be for the Discovery platform to do that. But
Mm.
there are other Discovery platforms out there that don't do that.
Mhm. The other thing that Submittable does or really doesn't do is that they don't police. They have a policy that they don't police lit mags, and so this is actually something that I could see getting potentially tricky for you guys, in the sense that you don't want to be policing like the content of what lit mags publish, what they say, what they do, but you do want to have some kind of oversight in terms of scams. So are you thinking about how you'll have a policy around that?
Yeah, we've already talked about any scammy uh behavior that's brought to our attention. That's something that we would like look at, and we don't want to police, we don't want to be the
Mhm.
creativity police, obviously,
Right.
but at the same time we want to make sure that there's no one, who is nefariously using our system. Like we don't want to because it's bad for us as well. If payments are going through our system and they're potentially, scammy outfits out there, that reflects badly on us as well. So
Sure.
we will definitely like crack down on any sort of behavior that we see to be untoward.
I think that's great. I think that's really important because, and I think that it would reflect badly on the platform because a lot of people are frustrated with Submittable. And often when you email them, you just can't get a real response and they just say, oh, we don't do that.
Yeah, again, that's probably something that we have. I should have said that is in our benefit is we will be very proactive in support. We get back to people within a couple of minutes if they
That's
raise stuff
great.
with us, and it's a learning for us as well. So this is like even a small question about some small thing from a writer. That it might mean it might be very small, but and Submittable would never even think about it. But we might see that as a really important piece of feedback that we can like, why did they have this problem? Is there a way that we can fix that through this X, Y, and Z? So actually, that's a really like useful thing to have that feedback coming through. But yeah, we're really good with our support, and I'm from a customer success background in the tech world, so I kind of know how to run all that, and yeah, we intend to have like the best support out there.
Hmm. We have a question. Dennis, you must have a background in business. This is a business-minded question. Sounds like you have an uphill climb for Dapple. What are your benchmarks for success?
Benchmark for good one. This is an investor meeting. Um, yeah, we want to when we launch, we want to without sort of giving numbers and everything, but like we want to see a healthy month-on-month growth of people using our platform. We've got already thousands of people who have used Apple around the world. Which is great to see. And we've got several organizations, publications using us. We have an idea of growth. That we intend to hit on a month basis, and hopefully we can be having this conversation in a year's time with lots of happy customers.
Yeah. That's sort of related to the challenge question. Like, what major challenges have you encountered? I'm sort of also curious, like, any challenges you've encountered kind of communicating with people in the literary world. Like, do you find people are very clear about what the problems are and very upfront about it, or are they sort of reluctant to change?
We've had all sorts. Some
Yeah.
people are really excited about it. Other people are like, I'm not changing from some submittable, even if it's cheaper. This is how we've done it. This is how we do
Mm.
things. How we're always going to do things. I think hopefully for us, once we get a bit of a buzz about us, which is the plan, that it will open people's eyes that there isn't just one platform out there that they
Hmm.
have to use. That there is an alternative that has it gives them a better experience.
Hmm.
And as we've talked about, the word of mouth in this community goes quickly. And yeah, we but people have been really receptive so far, and with the feedback has been great. So yeah, we hope that
Great.
continues.
Yeah. A question. I was wondering this as well. Are there beta testers on the LitMag side? Do you have beta testers that are writers? Is there even a role for that? Would that even make sense?
Our beta testers at the moment are all within the other publications,
Hmm.
and yeah, from various different sizes, various different volumes. Some take submission fees, some don't. Where we've got a whole kind of we wanted a kind of slice of every kind of we have some sort of more academic based, more younger, some older. So we've got a whole slice of the ecosphere really.
Hmm. Hmm. Have you been in contact with Submittable? Are you getting any kind of pushback from them?
No, I don't think they would look twice at us. As we know, Submittable have moved out of this industry a long time ago.
Mhm.
They have moved to pastures new. I am actually very surprised that they still cater for, as in they still well, I mean, they have moved. Their focus has completely changed. I mean, if you go on their website now, not anywhere on there on the front on the homepage or in the solutions does it mention anything to do with creativity. And
Mhm.
yet, because they started here and because they have a plan, which is the CLNP plan, which they have, which is very reduced from their usual plan, which starts at around $10,000 a year. Their CLNP is a lot cheaper than that. Because they do that, they still have the writing community there. So I think it's part of our challenge is to convince people that there is an alternative there for a
Mhm.
company that actually listens to their requests and actually builds for them, as opposed to a company which is their features are for other people now. They're not going to change any of their features for the writing community,
Yeah,
and therefore we don't see any that they can't progress in this industry because they're not focused on it, and that's where we hope to come in.
that's really interesting. I didn't realize it was $10,000 a year.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah,
So it would be interesting if you could sort of like summon writers to apply some pressure on lit mags to adapt to Dapple. Because it's really, it sounds like it's in writers' benefit. Like if this could actually take off and we could see a drop in submission fees or even no submission fees, I think that would benefit everybody, even though we've all kind of gotten used to submission fees and sort of take them for granted. And I think many editors also see them not just as a way to support submittable, but also as kind of like a way to create friction in the submissions process and kind of
that's true.
stop the inundation. But that's sort of a separate issue. But if you could kind of I mean, I think that's such a strong selling point, and writers could be utilized to apply the pressure onto lit mags to adopt the technology.
I completely agree. Becky, if you could write some lovely articles about us, that would be
I
fantastic. Thank
changed
you.
my mind. Um, yeah, no, I mean it is. This will be. Yeah, I think it all sounds very good. So are you like right now? Are you cold calling editors? Is this like how are you? Are you in salesperson mode?
A little bit. We've done a lot of that already to get our beta testers on. Again, we are just sort of finishing off potentially any partnerships that we do finalize, and then once we've done that, we're going to launch properly. And at that point, it will be reaching out to publications that haven't heard of us,
Yeah.
using our partners for help with that as well. And yeah, and any sort of marketing help along the way
Mhm.
would be very useful.
It is hard. I mean, I remember I've done like cold calling to lit mags for advertising. It's a really grueling process. So
Yeah, I know, I know. Yeah.
yeah.
But writers tend to be. I mean, I've worked in a few industries. I've we so just a little bit of background. Ali and I, who's my co-founder, we
Mhm.
both met working at a bookings and reservations company called Design My Night in London, and we built a reservation system which is now used for by I think it's about 10,000 bars and restaurants across the world now.
Wow.
And so that's kind of how we kind of got into this from a tech point of view. In the volume of bar bookings and restaurant bookings, we realized that actually the technology behind that can easily be transported into something like submissions as well. So that's kind of where
Mhm.
we came from in that. But my point was that yeah, speaking to publications and writers, it's quite a pleasant experience comparatively to some
Yeah.
pubs that I had used to deal with, and also in the ticketing industry as well. I used to work in that too. That can be quite difficult too. But
Right.
yeah, so it's not as bad as it sounds.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. Well, this all sounds great. I think everybody here wishes you luck, and I wish you luck. And yeah, I mean, if you can get those submission fees down and make the process simpler and more streamlined for everyone, I think we will all be very grateful. So yeah, let us know if we can help. I'll be spreading the word, and keep us posted on the progress.
Will do. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you guys. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Sounds great. Thank you.